Hey guys, Happy New Year. So I thought I'd come on with a bit of a short one today, just because our last one was a bit of an epic one, and I don't have that much time today. I've got loads and loads of stuff to do. So I'm going to tackle one of the shorter stories, and one of the shorter categories that I have anyway, of stories and things that I've experienced in the hobby over the years, working in hobby stores and Games Workshop stores and elsewhere. And that is hated armies. Hated armies. What armies are not liked in the hobby? Before I get into that though, Happy New Year, as I said before, and 2022 is set to be hopefully a big year for the channel. I have a lot of plans on the go at the moment. Black Coat Season 2 is coming early this month. But in terms of viewer driver numbers, well, we've got the new viewer driver videos. Sorry, we got the Space Marine chapter, the full lore video for the channel Space Marine chapter coming out. I think it's going to be sometime in January this month. Should be quite a long one. I'm aiming it for it to be around an hour of an actual edited video with pictures and color schemes and background lore, things like that. And yeah, it's going to be pretty cool. And it's generally going to be a template for lore videos that I want to make going forward, because I would like to start making lore videos on homebrew chapters. These are chapters that you've made up yourself. Well, I get to read your writing skills. I get to read your lore out on the channel with your artwork, and I can make a little video about whatever chapter you're doing, or whatever army you're doing. Doesn't have to be a chapter, can be anything that you like. But yeah, it's going to be like a test video to do that going forwards. And from there on in, we're going to carry on with the Games Workshop content as well, of course. And lots more really cool things that we're going to need to talk about from the hobby, things like that, going forward. So can't wait for that. Those are the two plans so far. I'm only going to make plans that I know are going to come off. You know, I don't want to overpromise. I want to underpromise and overdeliver, basically. And I think those will, in my best interest, those will drive viewer numbers, which would be great. So, getting back to our topic today is hated armies. Now, this is quite a controversial topic, because I need to say this. My opinion doesn't really come into this video at all, okay? I'm just going to tell you what I saw when I was working in the hobby. Again, you know, this is years of experience of people coming in, playing armies, saltiness, general unhappiness, and general, you know, feeling towards certain codexes and certain armies. So, when I first started working for Games Workshop, we were in the midst of 7th edition, and we had, obviously, Tau were very powerful at that time. Dark Eldar was starting to creep upwards. But in terms of power level and overpowered armies, controversially, you don't really see them in store, because no one will play you. We had a guy in our Games Workshop store who would come in with 2 Skyhammer detachments, when detachments were a thing. Oh my god, how awful were they, in 7th edition. And if you don't know what Skyhammer is, just as a brief overview, there was a rule called Pinned in 7th edition. Not sure if there still is in 9th edition. But in 7th edition, there was something called Pinned, where if you were shot at something and you were pinned, you had to roll a d6, and on a 6 you could take an action, I think it was, the next turn. And if you didn't roll 6, then you couldn't, in general. So Skyhammer, and I'm sure somebody will correct me, that actually there's like, you know, 1 or 2 things that you got wrong there. The general gist of the rule is, what it let you do was come down in a drop pod, shoot at something, and stop them from basically taking many actions against you the next turn. When you've got Terminators and things like that charging these people as they're sheltering from your fire, makes for an extremely powerful combination, and this person would just mop up entire armies, you know, verbatim, right? I think I've told this story before where he kept on goading the staff into playing him, and in the end I made a point of playing him. I said, look, I'll play you, but I can tell you now I'm not going to enjoy it. Watch, yeah, I'll play you. And he played me with the Skyhammer, knocked me off the table at the top of turn 1, and I said, great, did you have fun? He said, no, not really. And I said, yeah, exactly. That's why no one wants to play you. right? That's literally the conversation we had. So when people come into the store with armies like that, people generally don't play them. And, you know, word gets around very quickly that this person plays for blood. And if you're not looking to play an Uber tournament list, then just don't bother playing them, you know, because a lot of the people working in or going to Games Workshop stores, these aren't tournament players. These are people who want to just chill out, roll a few dice, you know, and they want to use nice fluffy armies. This is what I used to do all the time. I used to just really like running fluffy armies. I still do now. I go fluff over rules every single time, which, you know, is a detriment to me and my playing style. But hey, I also don't lose many games because I pick and choose my opponents accordingly. I'm like, no. I want to play against somebody else who also likes fluff, who also likes their armies, you know. And I play against semi-competitive armies and do okay. That's why I think when people say, you always get the alarmists who say, in a Games Workshop store, in a hobby store, this is broken, or that's broken, or the game's broken, or this is awful, or that's awful. I don't think it is. I actually think Warhammer 40,000, especially 9th edition, is a very well-balanced game. And I say that because I play people who have quite competitive lists with really fluffy lists, and I'm still able to win. You know, I still got a very good win ratio within 9th edition, right? I played against Antonius, Matt, who's on Blackcoats, right? And he plays a very fluffy list, you know, of Space Marines, but still, it's Ultramarines, it's a gunline army, so it's still pretty good, you know. And I play against that with a White Scars army with no bikes, literally a White Scars army with no bikes, and I'd end up winning. Very close, but I'd end up winning, right? Or he'll end up winning. It'll always be really close. That's what I mean. If you don't take the piss, it's a very well balanced game. And if you keep coming across people who take the piss, then either have a word with them or go and find people that you can have a good time with, right? So in Games Workshop stores, we never really saw overpowered armies on the tabletop. In local friendly game stores, that's when you would start to see this sort of thing creep in. Mainly because they knew in a Games Workshop store, we had a lot of kids there. We're not going to tolerate somebody coming in and just mopping everyone off the table at the top of turn one. That's not fun. That won't sell models. Leave. But in terms of your local friendly game store, it would happen quite a lot, right? We would get people coming in and you know, laying down incredibly powerful combinations on the tabletop that would literally annihilate the other person at the top of turn one. And that's where Warhammer 40,000 gets the reputation for being whoever rolls to go first generally wins. Well, yes, in tournaments that generally does happen, because you both have insanely powerful combinations that, you know, if somebody gets an entire turn on you without you being able to reply, that's where we are, right? So, that is the difference. And I've said this before in my videos before about the difference between Games Workshop. It's about the game experience that you want when you go into one of these stores, right? So, Hated Armies, I would say if you want to get fairly balanced armies, fluffy armies, Games Workshop's the place to go. That's not to say you won't get fluffy armies in the game store. You will. But you'll also get the try-hard tournament players who want to come in and annihilate everyone off the table in record time. So, in terms of lore, now this is where we're going to open the can of worms. In terms of lore, in terms of what armies were not liked when I was working in the hobby, Ultramarines are way on top of that list. People despised Ultramarines. To the point now where I don't have any ill will towards Ultramarines, I just think they're really boring. I honestly don't have any ill will towards them, but I still, whenever I see them, I almost inwardly roll my eyes. I'm like, oh god, here we go. Right? I still get that now. And if you're an Ultramarine player, please come in the comments and tell me what got you into them and how you feel about... what's the worst experience you've gotten in a hobby store or in a Games Workshop store? Because I've seen some pretty shitty things. You know, I've seen kids come in who just like the blue Space Marines. They're blue, they're trimmed with gold, they look pretty cool, right? And they're pushed in the marketing, and people generally roll their eyes. And they say, oh, right, yeah, you're Ultramarines player, okay, yeah, fair enough. And they would start losing interest in what you have to say about the hobby because you're an Ultramarines player, right? But you don't have an imagination, is what people would say, right? You literally don't have any imagination. You're coming in, you're just taking something off the shelf, that'll do, and you haven't put as much effort into your hobby that everyone else has, right? And if it's just wrong, right? It's not right, is it? Like, you don't know what this person's put in terms of the hobby and things like that. I know quite a few Ultramarines players who love the background lore of Warhammer 40,000, who really... I had a mate of mine once called Joe, and he had this Ultramarines force, but it was a successor chapter of Ultramarines that were also really closely tied to the Death Watch. And every single... He wrote a rule for his chapter that every single captain of a squad in his army had Death Watch ammunition, so they were able to use the ammunition that Death Watch had. Only the captain of every single squad. That's such a cool little fluffy thing to have in your army, and I love that. They're really nicely painted, nice white models, beautiful, right? So that doesn't hold true to me. But Ultramarines, a lot of the time, unfortunately, you would get people rolling their eyes, not wanting to play. There's like, oh god, Ultramarines again. You know, especially when you had things like Skyhammer and stuff like that, where Ultramarines were one of the best people to use for them because they were a very good shooting faction, and you know, it was just not pretty, right? But in terms of Ultramarines in the lore, I completely get the frustration. I get the fact that they're pushed way too much. There was once a retail workshop where we were reading the Christmas pamphlet, and we were doing this exercise where we were talking about all the managers in one room, and we were talking about, like, you know, what we recognise from the Christmas pamphlet. And a guy put his hand up and went, Rabute Guilliman is mentioned 136 fucking times. And everybody laughed. Because we all know it's bullshit, right? Right? Even the people who are working at Games Workshop know it's bullshit. We all just laughed, and we were just like, yeah, we hated pushing Ultramarines. You know, a lot of us just didn't like doing it. We didn't like throwing Ultramarines out there. We didn't like just having them everywhere in the store. And lo and behold, the more you force things on people, the more they will resist them and not like them. And generally, the lore doesn't help Ultramarines either. Yes, you will have people who really like them, regardless, right? I'm not saying your opinion's invalid, but it's invalid. No, I'm joking. I'm not saying your opinion's invalid at all. But what the vast majority of people don't find the Ultramarines lore very expansive or interesting. Even Horus Heresy lore, right? They just don't find it that interesting, right? That they fought the word bearers for a bit. Okay, cool. They made an empire that immediately failed. Okay. I mean, but they don't do anything. Everything's going towards the Siege of Terror, and they're not there. One of the biggest faux pas I think Games Workshop actually made in terms of the actual thing. I think we should have had at least one or two companies of Ultramarines, chapters as they were back then or whatever they were. They should have had one or two companies of Ultramarines make their way to the Siege of Terror. Guilliman should have been at the Siege of Terror as Rugal Dawn's subordinate, right? It would have been really cool to have Guilliman there saying, hey, this guy knows more about sieges than I do, and I'm a strategic genius, so me being a strategic genius, I'm going to place myself under the command of this guy because he knows what he's doing, right? It would make all of Guilliman's actions later on seem that much more believable and justifiable. And it would make the conflict between Rogal Dawn and Guilliman a lot more believable too, when Guilliman brings in the Codex Astartes, right? So, again, the lore doesn't do them any favours for a lot of people. They're the generic Space Marines. They're the most numerous Space Marines, right? The reason why Gabriel Seth was so respected and loved when he said all they're doing is with these Primaris is giving you Ultramarines by a different colour. That's literally the hobbyists. That's literally the fan base talking through Gabriel Seth. I'm so surprised that line made it into an official Games Workshop novel. I think it's Shielded Baal. I'm so surprised it's in there. I'm so surprised they actually published the line, you're just giving us Ultramarines by a different colour. But saying that, well done, Games Workshop, because you're showing that you are listening to your fan base, right? So Ultramarines are way up there in some of the most hated armies that we actually had. So Eldar, actually, Craftworld Eldar, were insane towards the end of 7th edition. And not so much start of 8th, but still in 8th a little bit. With Unid and all these other things that were coming out. They were absolutely insane on the tabletop. And they caught a huge load of hate. A huge load of hate. Somebody would walk in with a Wraith Knight, and immediately people would just start packing up their models. It would just be, I would play these people because it's just funny, because it just, I tended to get a good bit of luck. I don't know whether it was me wearing the Games Workshop colours or whatever, but like I would always tend to get decent luck, so I'd end up like winning a lot of the time. But having these really fast, really powerful, really well good shooting armies that are on the tabletop really rub people up the wrong way. Now, I was in the hobby when 3rd edition Grey Knights came out, the Demon Hunters Codex that Matt Ward wrote. Maybe was it 4th edition? Can't remember. But anyway, I was around the hobby at that time, and I wasn't doing Grey Knights at that time, unfortunately. But I know hate, trust me. That codex deserved hate, and it got a lot of it. Eldar, not so much. I think people are very reactionary these days, and I think the response to Eldar towards the end of 7th was one of those. It was you know, everyone's going off their head saying this is really overpowered, this is ridiculous. Same with Tau as well. Tau have had their moment in the sun where people were like, this is so ridiculous and overpowered, and I don't want to play against Tau. You'd have people coming into the store and giving sermons on how shit the Tau are and why people shouldn't play them, and why people shouldn't play Eldar, why it's so lame that people play these armies that are so powerful that just ruin the fun for everybody else. Well, maybe they just think those armies are cool. Maybe they just think they look really cool, and the fact that they're really powerful in the game is just an offset of that, Yeah, there will be some people over there who are really, really into winning, but just don't play those people. Play them once and then discard. Like, don't play them ever again, because it's just not worth it, right? But they caught a huge load of flack. Tau, when the Storm Surge came out, caught a huge load of flack in stores. Oh my god, we would have so many ranty people come in, who would moan about the armies and moan about this and moan about that. And at the end of the day, Warhammer 40,000, if you take nothing else away from my channel, please realise that Warhammer 40,000, and Age of Sigmar to a lesser extent, and probably the Old World when it comes out as well, these are games that are designed around mainly one thing: choosing your opponent and choosing your game. The best thing for you to do is go and find a bunch of like-minded people. If you want to go and play a campaign that's really story-driven, go and find some people to go and play that campaign with. Don't expect other people to conform to what you want to do all of the time, which is what I was saying about gatekeeping in our last video, right? Well, you're doing exactly the same thing. If you're going to a tournament player and I'm basting this tournament player for not playing a fluffy game like you want to play, because they're not playing the game properly, quote-unquote, that's a form, that's a form of gatekeeping. That's the really bad form of gatekeeping. Like, what are you doing? Stop doing that, right? They can play the game however they want. It doesn't matter, right? Go and find your own group. Go and find your own people. That's the beauty of Warhammer. You can go and find those people that you can play with and you form friendships with over the years, right? So, one thing I want to talk about was Grey Knights. That codex that Matt Ward wrote. Yeah, again, Matt Ward has a lot to answer for in terms of the hate that certain armies get. Because as a Grey Knight player, I still catch hate now. And I would say Grey Knights aren't even in the top 5 in terms of power lists in the game right now. Not even in the top 5, not even close. And I still get flack. I still get it in the neck of, oh my god, you're playing Grey Knights. Remember that one codex? Yes, that's not the codex I'm fucking playing though, is it? Because we're 9th edition now, right? Not 3rd or 4th. Shut your face, right? Literally. And I can't imagine what Tau players have to go through when people say, oh yeah, I really like Tau. Like what the flack that you get sometimes. I've seen it happen. There was this lovely Czech guy in my store who'd play Tau, and he would play Gunline Tau, and people would end up saying to him, especially there was a Space Force player in our store who had a go at him for playing Gunline Tau. It's like, it's so lame. Like, why aren't you like getting into combat and stuff like that? And he started showing him all these clips from the text-speech device, and saying, oh yeah, like it's like the measure of how people think on the hobby and things like that. And the Tower always getting shit on, and I was like, I'm sorry, no. This is why I don't have a go at campers really in video games. If you buy your video game, you have the option to play it however the fucking hell you want to, because you bought that game and that's yours, and you can do whatever you want. If you've and armies are a lot bigger of an expense. If you've gone and bought your Tau army and you really like the fact they're a gunline army and you want to have them fire in a gunline, that's your choice and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. If this person doesn't enjoy that kind of game, finish the game as best as you can, and then move on, and don't play them again. That's all. And if they ask you to play, just say, look, not really interested in playing a gunline army. I didn't really enjoy it last time, you know. Maybe if you get some, like, more combat-y units, I'll come play you, but, like, you know, I really didn't enjoy that, to be honest with you. That's fine. That's not a problem. I've had people say that to me before. I've had demon players say that to me as Grey Knights, where I've fought them as Grey Knights, and I've wiped them off the table, because obviously I'm Grey Knights, right? And they said, look, I really like demons, and, you know, if I bring another army to the store, or wherever I'll play you, but, like, I don't want to play Grey Knights as my demons. Not a problem. That, literally, that's fine. You know, not an issue at all. But don't have a go at people for playing the armies the way that they want to play them, right? And for having a go at armies in the lore for the way that they look and feel and the way that people think are cool. Like, why can't people have nice things? That's the message I want to give. That's my only opinion, really, is let people have nice things. You know, if somebody's a tournament player and they like certain tournament armies, then let them go and do that. If somebody is a fluffy player and they like fluffy armies, let them go and do that. And go and find your own people and play with them, and that's fine. Oh, that sounded really weird, but you know, go and find your own. Please don't sound clip me. But yeah, go and find your own people, right? And that's nothing wrong with that at all. Anyway, that's what I have on armies that are in store that you get. The ones that have caught some flack. So we have obviously the Ultramarines, Tau, Eldar. Weirdly, not Drukhari. Weirdly, Dark Eldar. Never get a mention. I don't know why. I don't know why people are so happy to play against Dark Eldar when they're one of the quickest, most powerful races in the game right now. I think mainly it's because I think the fluff seeps into the games and the lore. The rules more than anything else. You know, if somebody's neglected in the fluff, in general, they'll be left alone, even if they've got really overpowered codexes. Vis-a-vis Imperial Guard. So Imperial Guard at the start of 8 were broken. Imperial Guard at the start of 8th edition were absolutely broken. I know because I sold that. That was my, when I was a manager, that was my edition. I sold that. I sold so many copies of that edition. And I was cleared out of Imperial Guard all the time. I had no Astra Militarum. They're called Imperial Guard, by the way. I subscribed to that meme of Clint Eastwood. You Astra Miller, what? You're in the Guard, son. Right? It's Imperial Guard. And I was cleared out. I had none to give. Even Imperial Knights. People were buying Knights to supplement their Imperial Guard with. They were absolutely rotten at the start of 8th edition. And in a weird way, I was happy for them because they've been neglected so much. And I think that's part of the reason why certain armies get certain bits of hate. And that's why if Games Workshop ever brought out an overpowered Space Marines codex, and when I say overpowered, I mean like Grey Knight, 3rd, 4th edition levels. If they ever brought that out and Ultramarines were the best in that codex, there would be fucking uproar. There would be a civil war in our hobby. As people just rendered their garments and started crying. But hey, what do you guys think of overpowered armies? What have you seen of hated armies? Not overpowered armies, of hated armies in your hobby stores, in your hobby circles. Is there any army that you can't stand? And here's the interesting thing. Is there any army that you have some sort of nonsensical hatred of? Is there any army that you really don't like? Just don't like them. For me, it's Space Wolves. I don't know why. They just really rub me up the wrong way. I think Leman Russ is stupid. I think every decision he makes is stupid. I think I think Vikings in space is too on the nose, right? You know, I sort of feel the same way about Blood Angels, but the Space Wolves, fucking hell. Like, yeah, something about this, and yeah, I don't like the way that they tend to get away with things. Like, they go after the Grey Knights and they get away with it. Are you shitting me? Like, these are like almost Custodes level Space Marines, and you're just telling me that they're just going to get away with it now. I'm just not. Okay, fine, right? I know what's happened to Fenris. I know, but even that wasn't really a loss. They've still got Fenris. It's now basically a win because you've got a war zone on Fenris now that you can fight with your Space Wolves army, right? You know, The burning of Prospero really annoyed me. It was so easy. They just went down. Yeah, yeah, we'll just get rid of this. We'll just get rid of this legion. This entire legion. Yeah, we'll just get rid of them. It's fine. Because we're the Space Wolves. We're the Emperor's Executioners. Oh, really? 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 So this one legion's going around just cleaning up other legions, is it? Because there's a lot of hints that the 2 missing legions were purged by the Space Wolves as well. I fucking hate that. Don't break your own law. One legion can't just wipe out another. That's not how it works, right? Especially when the other legion is full of fucking psychers. And I know Magnus sabotaged them and didn't want them to fight back and all that. It doesn't matter. It shouldn't have been that easy. It shouldn't have been that easy. And even then, having Magnus do that, so fucking lame, dude. Don't give the Space Wolves a leg up just because you like lemon nuts, right? Can't stand them. So is there anyone that you have that feeling about? Let me know in the comments. I would really love to get your opinions on that. I'm going to be going back to early this week. I'm going to be doing a more in-depth Games Workshop story. It's actually going to be a hobby store story this week, earlier on, about something in particular, but I'm not going to spoil it just yet. This is more of a vague one, because I wanted to get your opinion on this rather than me sprouting up stories all day. So, what do you think? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll speak to you next time.